Okay, so welcome back. We just learned a pretty big thing here. We learned that when Jesus comes back, there's a couple of quick announcements, like just announcements. The hour of judgment has come. Babylon has fallen. And even now, don't take the mark of the beast because there's still time. But we also saw that at that same time that the bride is collected, that the harvest is collected, and that we see that it's the second rapture. So there's two raptures. There's also two resurrections, and we'll see that later. But there's two raptures and two resurrections. Okay. The harvest is collected and the rapture happens. However, remember, we still talk about tares. So we read here. Remember here? So this is the harvest. Another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on a cloud, thrust thy sickle and reap, for the time has come to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. So that's the bride, that's the harvest. So that he that sat on the cloud reaped, right? Then another angel came out of heaven, also having a sharp sickle. And another angel came out of the altar, which had power over fire. And he cried with a loud cry to him that had the sharp sickle, saying, thrust thy sharp sickle and gather the clusters of grapes, the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. So first we see the harvest got gathered. Then we see another angel, which, by the way, is the angel of fire. The angel of fire right here. And they say, go get the clusters of grapes because they're fully ripe. But then watch what happens to these grapes. And the angel thrust his sickle into the earth and gathered the vine of the earth and cast it into the great winepress of the wrath of God. That's the tares, everyone. The tares end up in the wrath of God. The tares didn't make it through the trials. They got stung and then cursed God. The beast attacked them spiritually that they couldn't see through an angel, and they cursed God. Like, this would be a time of Job. You're going to lose. Some people potentially are going to lose everything. There's going to be moral dilemmas everywhere. But again, it's not going to be fire. It's not going to be fire and brimstone, man. It's just going to be like everyday life. It's just that some people here and there occasionally are going to lose everything. There's going to be severe trials. The ones that made it, the ones that made the right choice, the ones that said, what would Jesus do, and followed it, well, they're the harvest. They're the bride. They've been collected. They've been raptured. The ones that didn't make it, the tares, are thrown into the wrath of God. Remember what the wrath of God is? 1 hour. 1 hour of the wrath of God. So the tares are thrown into the wrath of God. Okay? Now, remarkably, now watch this because this is pretty interesting. Right in the next verse, right here. So this was I'm sorry. Right in the next chapter. So this is chapter 14. Go right to chapter 15. Right in the beginning here. Guess who we see in heaven? And I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous. 7 angels having the 7 last plagues, for in them was filled up the wrath of God. Okay, so first of all, he's announcing that they're getting ready for this hour of the wrath of God. And remember what I said? This and this wasn't the wrath of God. This coming up is the wrath of God. So we're almost there. But look here at verse 2. And I saw, as it were, a sea of glass mingled with fire. Remember, it was the angel of fire. Okay, so now we see a sea of glass mingled with fire, which is mean a sea of souls that are on fire. Okay, okay, and them that had gotten victory over the beast and over his image and over his mark and over his number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having harps of God. So these are two people. The glass mingled with fire are the tares, and the harvest is they that had gotten victory over the beast and over his image. That's the bride. So we see already the bride in heaven right after they were raptured. We see the tares mingled in the fire, and we see we see them that had gotten victory over the beast. And they stood on the, it says it stood on the sea of glass. So they stand, even if you want to look at it, like they're standing above it. They're above that sea of glass of fire, and they're having, guess what? Harps of gold. So harps of God, harps of God, right? So again, just the important part is that we see them in heaven right after it says that they're raptured. Then we see them in heaven right here. Okay. Okay. So then, guess what? Then it gets into the 7 plagues in the verse 2 here. And I saw, as it were, a sea of glass mingled with fire. Oh, that's what I just read. I need to go to 16 now. Verse 2. And the first went and poured his vial upon the earth, and there fell. Okay. And I heard a loud voice coming out of the temple, saying to the 7 angels, "Go your ways and pour out the vials of the wrath of God upon the earth." Okay. So here we have the pour out. How do they spell that? Yeah, pour out the wrath of God. They're pouring out the wrath of God. Okay. We'll confirm this, like, this 1 hour we got from an angel flying in the air saying there's going to be an hour of judgment. And we'll confirm this 1 hour here in a little bit too. So the vials came out 1 through 7, and it's all just destruction, 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 all the way through 1 through 7. Pretty much a straight kind of walkthrough of all 7 vials. There is a little break between the 6th and the 7th, but what I want to point out is after the 7th, so the 7th angel poured out his vial, and there came a great voice out of heaven saying, "It is done." So remember that these are the vials of the wrath of God. The tares are in there. So far, we know that the tares are in there. Okay. And he says, after the 7th vial, it's done. It is done. It is done. However, if we look down a little bit further, it says in verse 19 here, and the great city was divided into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell. And great Babylon came into remembrance before God to give her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath. Okay, so the tares are in there, and the 7 vials of wrath are being poured out. And then God's like, "Oh yeah, we gotta do Babylon." Okay. Oh, yeah, we got to do Babylon. It says here that, and great Babylon came into remembrance to give her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath. So he was like, oh, yeah, we got to include Babylon in the wrath. Okay? Now, what happens is that in chapter 17, the next chapter, we're reintroduced to the woman. Now, you remember the woman? Where was the last time we saw the woman? It was in the wilderness, remember? She was in the woman. She's the one that had the birth of the 144,000 in God's army. She's also the one that had birth to the wheat and tares, but like, they still had to go through trials. These were the ones that are already sealed. Anyways, we find her back in the wilderness right here, right? So Revelation 17. Where does it say it? Okay, so in verse 3 here, so he carried away in the spirit into the wilderness. Remember that? And I saw a woman who was sitting upon a scarlet colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So if you remember this description, that's the same description Satan has when Satan is thrown to earth. So coming out of the wilderness, the woman is now riding Satan. Woman is in complete cahoots with Satan. Woman riding Satan. Okay? The same woman, the same like corporate entity of God's house, the same woman that had the 144,000 and the great multitude and sealed them, and the bride, is now found coming out of the wilderness riding Satan. Okay, so just to put a point on it, if we go to verse here 5, upon her forehead was a name Mystery Babylon the Great. Do you remember what Jesus did? Remember what the announcement was when Jesus first came and gathered his bride? Was that Babylon was fallen. Okay. Then this sort of backs it up. We see the woman coming riding on Satan. So the corporate church is in full cahoots with Satan. And that now we see that directly the woman is directly named Babylon. Okay. And I saw the woman drunken with blood of the saints. That means she killed the prophet. Like everything that bad happened, like she was involved in it. Even though greatness come out of her, she ends up, the actual corporate entity of her, religion, the Pope, whatever, they come out riding Satan, like in full cahoots with Satan. Okay, so that's it for this one. We'll get more into after what happens after that in the next one. Okay, see you then.